Right, Thursday the 9th. And before we start, oh, my cat's all in here, but it's a special day for me, Brice, because it's my eldest dog, Star's 16th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Birthday, Star. So
Oh,
Thursday the 9th. How are you doing, Brice?
I'm tired. I'm confused. I don't feel like I'm on steady ground. These last like 3 weeks literally have been it's an awful song to compare it to, but you know that song by Miley Cyrus, the Wrecking Ball song? It's
Yes.
kind of what I feel like these last few weeks have been a bit of a wrecking ball. And I think a lot of people are feeling this way. And it's been rough. This month has been rough. How about you?
I'm exactly the same. I mean, we were just having a bit of a chat before I always nearly forget to press record because we get so carried away. But yeah, it's been really rough. I mean, I've mentioned before, one of my animals isn't very well, and that's hard because when you see someone you love who's suffering, it's obviously very, very hard. And even though I do healing work, I do lots of natural therapies and things like this, when you've got that mum animal bond, it's
Yeah.
quite difficult to be objective. But also it's more than that. I think it's more in terms of, how can I put it? I'm noticing a lot of reactions in other people, surprising reactions, and I'm surprised it's still affecting me, because I'm thinking by the time I get as old as I am, I should know better than these things. You over our lifetime, we accumulate a lot of tools. I had a lovely chat with Charlie Ward this morning, and we were chatting about the importance of teams and of the people around you, and also of knowing that you've got those people that have got your back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were just saying too, I don't know a lot of people watching understand this. Like for me, and I'm sure Catherine, you as well, when all of this started, I lost a lot of friends in my Atlanta life, in my off YouTube life, because of who I supported. And they all think I'm crazy because of all these this knowledge that we've obtained over what's been happening on these islands, we'll just say, and they think that I'm gone completely nutty because how can this possibly all be true? This is, even though we see the evidence, but it's been, even though I've had to mourn those friendships over the last few years, what's been incredible is I've been able to meet you, other people, Janine, all these other people that have like come into my life that I feel like I've known for lifetimes anyway. So it's very natural. It feels very good. And up until this point, it's been security because we see each other we're constantly, for those that are watching, like Catherine and I text all the time. We're constantly in contact with each other, even off camera as well. So I feel like I have these people, but then the reality, especially with the new flavor of the flu that's out now, we'll say, you're seeing all these crazy things happen again, where it's like hit me that most of these people I've connected with, besides a few people here in the United States, are in different countries. And
Yeah.
so there's a border that for the first time in my life, I have not been able to cross. And neither can you, because we're not doing it. And so it's getting more and more and more. I feel very like suffocated. Like I can't, like all these people. I mean, thank God there are people here in the United States I have connected with, and I am thinking about taking a road trip after Christmas to go visit some of these people because because they're in my country. But like in England, you're in a small country and you're stuck. It's like we're all kind of stuck. And I
Yeah.
feel like, I know astrologically, like I feel like the end is near. I know we've been saying that for a very long time, and none of us know like when that plug is actually going to be pulled. But I feel like the veil we're almost at the year mark of the winter solstice for the age of Aquarius, which was last December, so we're getting up to that year mark, and the veil is really starting to thin right now, I think, because I think we're starting to recognize people even more for who they've been to us in the past. But yet we're still kind of enslaved by our own reactions and our own thoughts, which sucks because I've spent most of my adult life working on my own thoughts through yoga. So now it's like, damn it, like they're still there,
Yeah.
and their own fears and our own vulnerabilities and all that kind of stuff.
I so agree with that. I think the veil is definitely thinning, and I think there's like everything, it's yin and yang and everything. And there's some really positive parts of that, because you have to be able to see. I mean, people talk a lot about Mr. T saying the best thing that had ever happened to him is when he went bankrupt, because he realized who his real friends are. Yeah. And I think, you know, this is what's happening, is in terms of, regardless of what your opinions are on a lot of things in life, you know, that when you know there's that deep connection with people there and there's that deep trust, you can agree to disagree on certain things. Of course, if your core values are way off, that's going to be an issue. But if you're generally really good, trustworthy people with integrity, it's absolutely healthy to have different opinions about different aspects of your life. And I think with the veil thinning, as you were talking about, I think what we're doing is seeing all of us, ourselves and those around us, really with such a fresh pair of eyes, and perhaps with this inner knowing, inner knowledge that we might have carried forward from past lives, etc., that are actually perhaps giving us answers that we didn't want to hear in some cases. And then I feel like at the moment I'm almost like, oh my goodness, like you, at the start of all this, I lost a lot of friends, people that I would routinely socialize with in person, which seems like a thing of the past at the moment. And now I suppose this week I've almost had the fear side of things. Fear's the wrong word, the realization side of things again, that, you know, I'm seeing other situations and people through different pairs of eyes, and that's quite hard, isn't it, if you're thinking, oh, not again.
It's like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, I feel like I'm constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I know that that's my own issue. Like, I get that, that's me. That has nothing to do with other people. But I think because, and we were off camera, we were chatting about this, because I know, and we'll talk more with Tamara about this as well, like if we step back and look at the bigger picture of these lives that we're living, and I'm sure this is true for people watching right now, because if you're watching this channel, you're definitely one, you think like we do, so, you know, or else you wouldn't be on this channel. But you know, we have these like soul contracts that we make. The only problem is when we take our incarnation is we don't remember, and we're spending a lot of our life here trying to like figure out that mission that we already agreed to. And but when we also are living while we're doing this mission, we're also still living our day-to-day lives. Like, the matrix still exists. It still exists right now. Like, we still have to like keep up with civilization and do things that are considered to be normal for our civilized society. So we experience these different interrelationships with people. But the thing is, and this is in the law of one as well, when you are a higher vibrational soul, so that means that you are an older soul, as we say, or you're light, you have picked a path, right? And like the law of one says that with this time period, a lot of people, they call them wanderers, souls have decided to come back into third density. So I'm going to say this, I had somebody ask me about this on one of my comments. So consciously, we're moving from third dimension to fifth dimension. But the nature, the earth itself is moving, and our bodies are moving from third density to fourth density. So there's difference between dimension and density. So at this time, this conjunction of this planet Earth, this is one of the rare times in history where the earth itself is going to be harvested, and we're going to be on the earth as it's harvested. This normally doesn't happen. Normally, the living life on the earth, the planet, has to get off of the planet for the planet to do it and then come back on. So this is a very rare opportunity. It's one of the biggest battles the cosmos has ever seen. We know that astrologically, we are going into fourth density positive, not negative. Third density, it's polarized. There's both good and bad, but fourth density is either positive or negative. And it's the age of Aquarius. It's the book of Revelation, where we that's the law. We're moving into fourth density positive. Doesn't mean that the negative entities are not going to try to hijack that. Yeah. All right. And so those of us who are potentially coming from a higher soul realm, and what is self-light, because the light, choosing the path of light is the service to others. Choosing the path of darkness is service to self. We think about all these rituals they do, that's service to self. And so what selfless act is that for a master soul, a level 6 soul or 5 soul, to volunteer, like that Hunger Games, I volunteer as tribute, like to come down into a third density body again, which you run the risk at that point of being stuck in that matrix again and not being able to free, to help move the planet forward. Most of us who are on these channels that have these platforms that are watching have figured it out. And so we've made the right decision. However, we're still going to get attacked. We're still going to get, I mean, I get scratched, I get bruises. I've had people do shitty things to me. Like they're still going to try to pull us down, to try to hide. Does that make sense? To like hijack the planet, and the consciousness of the planet. But in the meantime, that sounds all well and good, but we're still dealing with mortal brains and mortal emotions.
Yeah,
and it's rough.
It is rough. And just to reiterate, I know again, people watching this know when we're talking about sort of higher density souls, you know, being an old soul isn't better than being a new soul.
No,
it's just different. It's just everyone's in different stages of their journeys and therefore here to experience different things.
Yep.
For their soul progression. And because this competition is very much 3D, it's not here, we're not competing against each other, we're not better or worse of each other, we're all needed. When you've got a team, you know, if you take a football team or a soccer as you'd call it, there's no point if you're all forwards, if you're all goal scorers, you also need goalkeepers, you need defenders, you need midfielders. You've got to have diversity in everything to make everything work optimally. And I think what's really interesting is when you're noticing these things more, you know, this week, I think, because quite often when you're sleep deprived, you do notice things because you're in a slightly different state of consciousness and there's different brainwaves. And there's a lot of really good points about that because it does bring realizations to the surface a lot quicker. And sometimes it's just about the fact where, you know, there's certain things I know I've got to deal with that I know what I've got to do. It's just then finding the energy to deal with it and finding perhaps a support to deal with it, but to move on to the next stage of what we're all meant to be doing. Sometimes it's sort of, you know, that saying ignorance is bliss, it can be quite appealing, but I wouldn't want to be like that. It's just sometimes you just think, actually, if you know, you probably just need a week to rest. Thing, and then you'd be back on target again. But I'm sitting here drinking my celery juice and my lemon juice, so I'll be all right.
Well, and that's it. I've lost my appetite, and I'm not a big eater anyway. Like I'm not somebody that's like, I'm not a foodie. I never really have been. But I have gotten to the point these last 3 weeks where I feel like I've lost like 7 pounds. I don't know because I don't weigh myself, but I've been laying in the bed at night and I'm feeling like my bones on the mattress and it hurts. But I cannot bring myself to eat. Like I'm having to force myself to eat. And I was talking to Cindy about it, who we're going to see tomorrow in our roundtable. And she had a good point. She said, every time your soul goes through a change, sometimes your body just needs enough food to sustain itself, but it needs to purge. And so therefore that's why you're feeling gross about food and you just have to let your body. So it's like all these things are happening. And I know other people have expressed the same thing as well. It's like all these shifts are happening. I know I talk about friction a lot. And when we think about change, we think about like, oh, you know, if you're just basically like, if you're going to go on a diet, if you're going to do whatever, like you're excited, you think it's going to be fun, but it gets hard. Change is hard. Change sucks. And so when you have to go through that friction in order to then get to the other side, and I think for a lot of us too, I've made the realization that my expectation for the new earth, for what was going to happen, I thought I had it all figured out. In these last 3 weeks, I realized that the universe has other plans. Things are going to be shifting. And I don't know what that is yet. And I have to be comfortable with like being uncomfortable with not knowing what that's going to look like. And I think a lot of people are coming to, it's easy. It's like that whole expectation versus reality. Like we all have these expectations, but most of the time what we expect is not what happens. There's a different reality.
You said that because at the start of this journey, I started off this YouTube journey with a friend of mine, Kelly Rivers, who's still on YouTube. Hi, Kelly. And we met in hysterical circumstances because we went on a retreat and we were in a coaching group together. It was a bit of a disaster. It's another story. It was hysterical because the coach turned out to not be quite all they set themselves up for, but we had a giggle and we really bonded over it. But some of the things that he used to say were absolutely brilliant. And one of the things that he used to routinely say, and I really hits home with me, is no one ever breaks your heart, they break your expectations. And this is what I have realized is, for me, I have my own set of expectations, which of course are going to be completely different to other people that I'm interacting with. And so sometimes when you feel that deflation, and I think everyone watching this, you know, you see by all the comments, we're all having our ups and downs at slightly different times. And that's why it's really good to have a community that can support each other through those ups and downs, because you're all going to go through it at different times for different reasons and in different ways. But when you look at it in terms of, yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. You had your expectations about what this new life is going to be. We've all had our expectations about what was going to happen over the last couple of years, and when, and timescales, and who was good and who was bad and who was this. And what we're finding is these expectations are being sort of crossed off and crossed off and crossed off, and being okay with not knowing, with the fact that we're not meant to know some of these things come. And we're in the spiritual world, it doesn't matter what system you're following. One of the key things that we're always a work in process is being in the present moment, being in the here and now. And, you know, I have to laugh because I see myself falling into this trap so often, is when you're looking at your expectations, you are absolutely not in the here and now. You're constantly moving yourself into the future. And those expectations go away when you do bring yourself back into the present moment.
Yeah, I agree completely. And every time, you know, that's the funny thing about the universe. I mean, there's that saying, like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yes.
You know, like, you know, we're not, my grandfather used to say that. And this was my dad's dad, who's no longer, none of my grandparents are around anymore, but he had this near-death experience when he was in his 40s. He had a major heart attack. This was before I was born. He had a major heart attack, and he was a partier. Like, he got kicked out of school and when he was a teenager for whiskey. I mean, like, he was I loved my grandfather. Like, he was a bit of a mischievous little boy, you know, and a very bold man. He was 6'5", really tall, you know, really very, very much a presence. But when he was in his mid-40s, he had this like major heart attack and was rushed into the hospital. Again, this is before I was born, and he flatlined. And he always would tell this story that he floated above his body, and he saw the nurses and the doctors talking, and he heard their full conversation, and the light opened up. And he always says, like, I can't explain to you the light. It's not, I can't explain it to a human being. It's nothing we've ever seen before. He said he walked into the light, and he says it was Jesus that came down and was telling him that he needed to go back. It wasn't his time. And my grandfather kept saying, oh no, I love it here. This is fantastic. Like, Marianne's got the kids. He was going to throw my grandmother under the bus. Like, she's got this. She's fine. She'll be okay. She's a strong woman. And Jesus was like, no, you have to go back, Ed. It's not your time. You can't be here now. And then he woke up in the hospital, and the doctors didn't realize, the doctors thought he had like hallucinated. But then when he started saying, no, this is what you guys were saying, and he had technically had flatline, they're like, oh, okay, something did happen. Well, my grandfather, after that happened, he never feared mortality. I know we can't say the D word that much, but he never feared that. He lost all fear. And so all my life, as I knew him as my grandfather, he was a huge presence, and he never took anything too seriously. He laughed at everything. And he used to always tell us, kids, you can't control anything in this life. There's nothing in your control. The only thing you can control is how you behave. And that's it.
Yes. It's so
nothing.
true.
And we have this illusion that we think everything is under our control, but it's not. And we're learning that now, but that illusion is also crumbling with the matrix. We get the stock market. We're waiting for the stock market to crash right now, frankly. Like, we know it's coming. You know, your house could burn down. Your partner could leave you. You know, so many scenarios. You have no control over any of that, really. The only thing you can control is how you react to it. And so, and it's rough when you have those realizations. It sucks because you have to sit in that, you know. And I even tell my students all the time, part of yoga is sitting in your shit, is being uncomfortable, and not trying to run from it, but actually embrace that and grow from it. But with this expectation versus reality, yeah, I literally thought before it really heated up these last few months that I knew exactly what was going to happen, and it was going to be fantastic. And now I know it's going to be good, but so much has happened these last 3 weeks that I'm like, I don't even know where I'm going to be living. Like, I don't even know like what this is going to look like. And there is a meditation that people can, I do this because I do struggle with anxiety. So I do have the propensity to worry about the future, worry about catastrophe thinking, like worry about things that aren't happening. And so I learned this trick, and it keeps you in the now. I actually did it this morning. Tomorrow never comes. The past is done and tomorrow never comes. All we have is right now. And there's this Japanese meditation, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like everything you do, every action you take in your day, bring yourself fully present to that. So if you're chopping carrots to cook, instead of like thinking about something else, is what we normally do, think about every chop you're taking. Watch that carrot. Really be here in that moment. I'm chopping carrots right now. I was in the shower washing my hair. And for most of the blonde people out there, like once a week, we got to wash our hair with purple shampoo. It's just something us blondes got to do so it doesn't look nappy. And you have to leave it in your hair for a little bit. So I'm like washing with my purple shampoo. And I was like, okay, bring yourself here. You're scrubbing your hair. You're getting that toner in your hair. Now you're going to shave. Like very methodical about what you're doing. And it works. If you can bring yourself to that point. When I'm practicing my yoga practice, there's postures that I really hate that I know they're coming. But instead of thinking about that, I bring myself into that moment of like, I'm in this posture right now. This is where I am. This is the only thing happening right now. And animals are pretty good at doing that.
Oh,
Animals
really?
they're really good, and they're really in the moment. Although my dog last night, we think he's 5 now. He was probably born in December of 2016, but he was rescued from the street. So we're not 100% sure what day. But when he was a puppy, he was like super hyper. And then he's kind of mellowed out as he's gotten older. But last night, I was like, is he getting his light body? Like, what's happening? He's acting like he's a puppy again, like getting into everything, wanting to play. So, but it's, and I do think though, with everything that I've been struggling with these last few weeks that everyone seems to be going through, it's an opportunity, even though it sucks. Like, trust me, guys, I know it sucks. I'm tired. Like, I know it sucks, but it's this opportunity for us to be able to like reevaluate ourselves too, and see like, what are we holding on to? What expectation are we still holding on to, where the universe is saying like, are you sure about that? I don't think that's what's going to happen. Like just relax and give it. Part of yoga is surrendering to God, or whatever you want to call that source, that higher source, that consciousness is surrendering to that it knows better than you, and it's in the universe. And you're right. No matter whether you're a master soul or a new soul, the universe doesn't, we're all equal in the universe. It's just where you are. It's still love. So, but man, oh man, the military back channel was one time talking about us having a Merry Christmas, and like the last 3 Christmases, we thought that was going to be it, but it might be this one. But it's like Dark Night of the Soul before that Merry Christmas comes along. So
it really is. And it's just so fascinating to see. I mean, I really have empathized, you can see the mood in the comments of the videos and things as we've been going through the year. And as I said, it's very obvious that people are having their ups and downs at different times. And it's also very obvious that a lot of people are feeling this distance as a barrier, because it is fantastic that we've got this technology. But also, I then seem to be thinking, well, what if the internet goes down then? Who am I going to talk? Luckily, I've got the foxes and the animals to talk to.
I got my dog, so
I get the best answers from them anyway. But, in all seriousness, there's a lot of people. I'm lucky I don't live on my own. So I've got there's a lot of people that are like, well, if this happens, that they're going to say, and this is where I think there's a really fine line between educating. All year we've all been told, do your own research, but you mustn't forget to live. That's the important thing. Yes, sometimes knowing these things can really help us, so long as we don't hold on to too much of it. So it can really help inform us to make the best decisions for us and our loved ones, any loved ones that listen to us. Although we can still make decisions. You don't want to hold on to it, and you still got to get on with living your life now, because if not, what the hell's the point?
Exactly. It's so funny. Somebody commented a couple of weeks ago on one of my, I can't remember if it was an episode by myself or with somebody, but they commented, they were like, you don't talk about the young people anymore. And I was kind of confused by that, because I was like, dude, like we know what's going on with the young people. Like we know, but I'm not focusing on it more, because we've already processed that. We can't stay in that mindset forever. Like we have to move forward, and we have to start healing. We can't. So I think people, I think you're right. Like this whole like living, do your research, but step away a little bit.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I was telling, I used to teach daily Mysore classes, but I don't anymore. Now I just teach courses. And as far as like off of the internet, what I do in Atlanta, and I was telling this course I teach on Sunday afternoons, I was talking about this teacher that was one of my favorite teachers, a man by the name of Ram Dass, who's no longer with us. He passed away in 2019, at a very old age. But his birth name was Richard Albert. And back in like the 60s and 70s, he was a professor of psychology at Harvard University. And he and one of his colleagues were involved through Harvard with this experimentation. I have to be careful with what I say, but like using psychedelics to understand the human mind. And he ended up going a little too far with his experiments and lost his job. And he ended up in India, and he met his Maharaji, his guru, and he's ended up becoming a fabulous teacher. His commentaries are fantastic. I've learned a lot from him in his books, but he talked a lot in his books. He talked a lot about his experience with these like psychedelics, and how in a lot of ways you would actually experience something very, very spiritual. But at some point you have to stop and you have to live it. You have to experience it without the crutch. And it's kind of the same thing with the research. Like all of us sit and we research, but at some point things have to be put aside, and your actual DNA, your actual physical psyche has to just take it in and then live. It's the same concept. It's one of my old teachers, David Grieg, used to say, when you go and listen to like Indians in India, like concerts, they will spend like 8 hours that day preparing for this one concert. But in America or in the West, when you go see a rock band, they only warm up for like 5 minutes and it's good enough for rock and roll. And my teachers used to say, sometimes things just have to be good enough for rock and roll. Sometimes you just have to move forward. You have to put things down and just act and just live. And so I think that's what you brought up is really, really important. And the thing is too, it can also drive you crazy. That's one thing I miss. I miss human touch.
Yeah, completely. I didn't realize I would, but I've always joked I'm not a very huggy kissy, but I'm always hugging my animals and kissing them. But actually I really do miss that human interaction.
I miss hugging my friends,
or
like laughing with them, like face to face at a bar, really, and laughing. And I miss that. And so for a lot of us, I think it's this situation, especially wherever you live. I am lucky because I'm in a state that's not super like, I'm able to go out and do and live, and I can go to the park, and it's not, but it's still a liberal city within a very open state. So I still have to be a little bit careful about certain things. But these people who are living in countries that are like mega lockdown, or states that are mega, you're by yourself. You don't have that human connection except for through Zoom, but you're not touching other humans. You're not in their realm physically. And then you're sitting and you're researching all day. It's going to drive you crazy. It's going to bring you to a place of deep depression, and I feel like I felt that these last 2 weeks. I feel like I've entered into a little bit of like a dark night of the soul, of depression, grief, sorrow. Like there's all these things that I'm having to process. And I think we all are. It's not just us individually. So if anybody watching thinks it's just you, it's not just you.
Don't you worry. We're going through it with you. Yeah.
We're all having pity parties together. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think I laughed with you last time. Like I love musical theater. And so whenever I'm feeling super bad, I'll just like put on musicals, because you can't be sad listening to musicals. So
it's so funny. I'm one of the weird people that hates musical theatre.
Oh, really?
I hate the overacting, but I love certain things, and I do love music, and I do love just playing with the animals and and I love laughing. I always try and make sure I connect with someone like you who's going to really make me laugh. And realize that you got to have the thing and not take yourself too seriously, and not take it all. Now of course there's a lot of serious things happening in the world, but we are meant to be beings of joy. We're meant to bring beings of joy. We don't have to stay there. You can get there, you can feel it, and you don't have to stay there. And that's something I've been having to kick myself up the backside a bit over the last couple of weeks, of making sure I don't allow myself into a self-pity or stay there sort of state. And I luckily can laugh about it now, because I can recognize it and then think, goodness me, have I not learned this lesson by now?
But that's the highest level of spirituality. That's what all the great spiritual gurus, all the swamis, they all tell you, that laughter, if you are in a place where you can laugh at yourself, you've reached the highest realm of spiritual understanding. Even in the Yoga Sutras and Sri Swami Satchitananda's commentary, he speaks about like when you actually understand who you are, not who you are in your body, but who you are as a soul, you can actually enjoy life, even with the ups and the downs, because it's not so serious. It's not so serious. And so that, but then it's almost, my teacher David Grieg used to say, it's like the unsolvable riddle. Like, how do you get to that point? Because we all have pity parties. We all have like days where we just want to like throw a temper tantrum and cry. And those are necessary. If you got to cry, go cry. It's detoxing. Something's detoxing out of you. But to be able to actually giggle and laugh. Well, look at Mr. T. Like Mr. T here in America, like I think he's funny.
Oh, he's like, really, really funny. And the more you get to know him, I mean, not that I've ever met him personally in this life, who knows in past, you know, he's really funny. I was speaking to Charlie about this morning. That's the one thing I love about the Brits is their sense of humor. You know, we have quite a different sense of humor to other people, and a Brit really gets a Brit sense of humor. So, yeah.
But think about it with Mr. T. I mean, he knows everything about everything going on, all the details, the gory details that I don't even want to know. And he's still able to crack jokes.
Yeah,
and laugh.
Absolutely. And enjoy life. And when he's in places, you know, to actually enjoy the experience. If he's on the golf club or he's out to dinner or he's having a certain things, you're like, you know, I've chosen to put myself in this situation. Most of the time, guys, when I'm saying this, I'm talking to myself, by the way. I'm just reminding myself of all the things that I can forget sometimes in daily life when I'm running around like Benny Hill. So yeah, but it is interesting, and I've really empathized with a lot of people that have been going through it. I mean, I can see from sort of some of the correspondence I'm getting, a lot of people are going through it a lot, and then you lift yourself up and you just think, I mean, we've had some laughable stuff in the UK. I mean, it's comical how much trouble our parliaments are in and our politicians are in. But it's also great to see, I'm only just learning, I'm so behind the curve, I'm only just learning how to use Twitter.
And me too. I suck at Twitter. I'm trying to learn.
How does everyone find everything on Twitter? But I'm slowly getting there, but it is quite hysterical because I'm so behind. But I'm loving the fact of all these people are coming out now and calling bullshit on it. I mean, seriously, some of the, you know, big sports stars, and say what you say about big sports stars, but they are influential and they are coming out and saying, this is absolute bullshit. They are just taking this now. Surely everyone can see it. And so our new plan C, because the government keeps saying they're going to lock us down again, which you can see coming a mile off, and that's called their plan B of the new moronic variant. I mean, seriously, is it, which everyone knows. I mean, I was saying to my daughter this morning, it's like saying to people, I've discovered an orange unicorn. It's like, you've never discovered the unicorn. You can't prove the unicorn exists in the first place. So how can you say you've now discovered and tested for an orange unicorn when you haven't seen, unless you've been on these psychedelics, the normal unicorn?
Yes. Well, thank you, because yesterday I like wanted to punch a wall yesterday. And no, I'm not on my period. Like, it was not like, this was like real anger, because I'm like, I'm not a scientist. I studied English, I studied literature. Like, I'm not, but I'm like, this is common sense. Like, this is so obvious.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Am I crazy? Like, how is this happening? Like, how the hell are people allowing this to happen? Like, this is so idiotic. Like, I don't understand. It's, even if you just look at the statistics, I mean, CDC's right down the road. And I'm a layman. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor, but I can read.
Yeah.
I can read.
And you can walk around the street and see that people aren't dropping down in front of you.
Exactly.
Do you think we should all get little alien outfits, proper alien outfits, and walk around the streets? I think that could make a real difference, actually. We could speed it up. We could all be, everyone watching this, we can be the alien invasion.
We can help them. Come on.
I'd love to dress up as an alien. If anyone knows where I can get a really good alien costume from, I'm really need to do that.
You know, Catherine, there was an episode you did with Janine a while ago, and I still giggle about something you said. You were talking about this.
Oh yeah.
And you said something, you said you would make a really good baddie because you would just be like, this is the real one. Like,
yes. I get
See what they said on TV. This is the real one. You know, just see, like,
I just want to get these crisis actors, these stupid celebrities and the politicians, and sit them down, and I'll dress up as Nursey. And then just as they're smiling for the camera, I'll whisper into their ear, it's the real one, or vile
going in
their stories, and just watch their face. I do wonder sometimes, because I can understand a lot of these baddies' plans. I think I must have been an evil in the James Bond films in a previous life.
I loved it though. When you said that, I laughed so hard and I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Can we please do that?
This would be the best punishment for them. I mean, that would be the start of it. You know, it really would be the start of it. I'd quite like to throw them in a Shark Tank as well. So that,
I mean, it's just, and I know, like, and Tamara had said this before, and I agree with her. Like, I know that, and that for us, like in England, in America, in Australia, in Canada, in most of Europe, we have roofs over our head, we have food, we got money in our bank account, like we're fine. We're not struggling like people in developing countries, or have had the crap beaten out of them in these countries. Like, I understand that, but the level of frustration I feel right now, just because and this is going to sound selfish, but I feel like my life, all of our lives have been put on such a halt. And I feel restricted, and just like, my best friend lives in Toronto and I haven't seen him in like 2 years.
Yeah.
Because we can't cross the border. And that pisses me off.
Yeah.
That there are people, and like all the people I've met, which I know I've known you guys before. So we're, you know, like, I can't just like go see you. Like, I can't, like, I don't have that freedom to be able to do that when I should be able to, because of this like stupid, as Charlie says, pantomime.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so frustrating, but I think we're going to be moving forward into our new reality. We're all going to be so much more compassionate. I know I sound a bit like a broken record, but you know, I've been saying to people, I've been working for a lot of years with people to get them to see their animals' lives through the animals' eyes, not through humans. And when we look at the restrictions that we place on animals, you know, and if I, you know, it's like people that have horses and they put them in these tiny little fields in a stable, and they put all these gadgets on them, and they can't play with their friends because they're too valuable and they might get kicked, so they have to be in a field on their own. Oh, but it's okay, they can see each other across the fence. And you're just like, oh my God. And it is ignorance, you know, it's not intentional. It's a lack of understanding. It's the fact of people that never let their dogs off the lead, that keep their cats in houses. Now, don't get me wrong, I know sometimes you have to, if you live in a dangerous place and you've rescued an animal. If you haven't rescued an animal, then don't bloody get a cat if you live in a dangerous place, quite frankly, because that's for your benefit, not for the animal's benefit. So I think it's really good, in a way, we in the privilege world are really feeling a lot of this, because, you know, it's like I suddenly thought the other day, when I was having a chat, I think, to Jean-Claude, and he was sort of saying we've never been through this level of stress. I was like, hang on a minute. I remember speaking to my grandparents who were living in the middle of London when they were being bombed, having children. They had no electricity because all their power was off. They had no heating. They didn't know where their next meal was coming from. They didn't know whether they were going to be bombed, and they'd just given birth to a baby, and all the men were all fighting in the war. So actually, humans have been through this level of stress. I know it's different. Every type of stress is different. But there's a lot of people around the globe, you know, probably as we speak, that are crossing waters in boats as refugees, that you know, that are being bombed out of their houses, that are being, you know, culled for ethnic cleansing, for things like this. So when we sort of look, and and again, folks, I'm talking about me as well with this, and thinking about having a poor me moment, remembering, actually, do you know what, there's a lot less, more people a lot worse off than us, and I will be a more compassionate human for what I'm going through now.
You put up a good point. Like, I understand now the need for people to, because we have that in America, coming from people, Cubans will get on a boat and risk their lives to get to America, and for asylum. And even though what I'm experiencing in Atlanta, Georgia is nothing compared to like the brutality of what they've gone through, I kind of get it now. Like, I get a little bit more now. And I love the whole caged animal reference. Yeah. I mean, so I brought back like 6 dogs so far from India, and my dog, he was rescued as a puppy. So he doesn't have a lot, like, he's still kind of wild. Like, he still has that instinct in him, but he doesn't understand cars. Like the dogs you rescue that are older understand cars. He doesn't. He has no clue. But with Ravi, I tried crate training him because my dad's a vet, and that was what we knew to do, was that he would break out of the crate every time. He would watch through multiple different crates. He would watch the lock, and he learned how to untie it to get out. And so we couldn't do that. We had to like listen to what he needed, because his ancestors were on the streets. He was wild. And it totally, that was the first realization I had with things that we think we know about certain species. We actually don't know. Let them tell you. And now we're the caged animals. Now we're the ones that are like,
that's such a perfect example of crating dogs. Now, when I grew up, dog crates didn't exist. You didn't put yourselves, only if they were traveling abroad or something like this. And now it's completely normal to crate train yourself, but that's purely for the bloody humans' benefit, because it's easy to leave them. None of my dogs are crate trained. I mean, my Romanian rescues had such a traumatic journey over from Romania and such traumatic experience. I mean, there's no way I'd get them in a crate. I probably would now if I needed to, but I wouldn't choose to. They're fine going in the car now and everything, which they weren't initially at all. But it's just like, you know, my view is, if you wouldn't do it to your child, don't do it to your animal. Why? Why? Because you don't want to, you know, realize, why is your dog chewing your house up in the first place? Why are they lonely? Why are they pounding? Why are they doing this? Not solve the problem by shoving them in a metal cate. You know, you wouldn't do that to your 2-year-old, or some people.
No. Oh, actually, I think I sent you a picture of my niece. My niece, who is 7 now. She's like you. She's like a dog whisperer. She's always, since she was in diapers, she has always gravitated towards dogs. She can calm a dog down. She's not afraid of them, even when they jump. And my mother has a King Charles Spaniel, small dog, Maggie, and she has a little crate. She actually uses it at like a dog bed. Like my mom,
and that's fine if you leave the door open, so they can come and go.
Come and go.
No problem with that.
Well, I sent Kevin a picture of my niece when she was probably like 2. She whenever she was at my mother's house, she would lock herself into the crate with Maggie. Like she was with a dog. She was like, I'm done. I'm gonna go. And she would like lock the door with her and Maggie in the crate. Like, and I know I couldn't post that picture because people would think it was just like so horrible. And it was like,
but it's brilliant because it's a choice and things. Yeah, animal's choice. I'm not saying crates are inherently cruel, and of course, sometimes you've got to keep your animal safe. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just, so don't take it to extreme things. I'm just saying it's amazing how much we do for our convenience. And we can shut out, even though we do really know, you know, that it wouldn't. And I think this hardship, which isn't hardship, as we know, compared to what a lot of people go through, but for us it might be, is really going to make us more compassionate moving forward, to see the world through a different pair of eyes. And I think we needed that, because even though a lot of people have kept working throughout it, I mean, I know loads of people that haven't had any time off, that haven't had, you know, been furloughed and things, so they have been keeping through, but I still think they're seeing things in a different way now, which is a real positive, thank God.
I'll never, I mean, I think absolutely, you hit the nail on the head with we are going to have more compassion and more understanding for where people are coming from, because you know, it's easy to think about yourself in a certain situation, and maybe people are doing that now, comparing what's happening now to I'll just say the 1930s and 40s, because I want to be careful with the algorithms, but you always think that you would never fall for that was going on, you know, to be the good, you know, and then we're seeing it now. And you always, so what you when you put yourself, you think about yourself in certain situations, like how would you respond? And you always think you're going to respond with the utmost integrity until you get to that situation. And so it is a good, and now that we are living through this massive transition as humanity, we are able, our perception on other people and other people's issues is probably going to be more compassionate, because we have a deeper understanding, a deeper empathy for that loneliness, that fear. You know, I think that's something I experienced these last few weeks too, is even though I know in my head that we're going to be fine, and that this is just a necessary transition, and there's friction with transition, and it's always like birthing a baby. It's always uncomfortable and painful until the baby comes. There's still that fear that, oh my God, like what if we're just the water is slowly boiling, where that frog that's slowly
Yeah.
like, what if I never get to travel again? What if I never get to cross another border again? What if I never see my friend in Toronto again because we've got this border now that used to be easy to cross, but
Yeah.
now is like the Berlin Wall. You know, why? What if, like that catastrophe thinking, and you know what? And in fairness to anybody else who is thinking that, we've been waiting for this for a long time.
Yeah.
So I understand that if you're having those moments like me, where it's like, crap, like what if this is it, you know, but we know that it's going to be okay. And I do feel like things are like really popping off. We're just not really
They're
seeing
really
it.
popping off. I mean, it is really quite funny to see the speed of which things are coming out, and also the speed of which things aren't coming out, like the big trial that's going on in America at the moment.
I know.
Is hearing anything about it. It's just complete radio silence. And even my mother said to me, who's a very wise woman, even she said yesterday, even she could see, she doesn't look at all the stuff that we do and everything, but even she could see that, just taking the British example of the ridiculous fuss over the politicians breaking lockdown and having a Christmas party last year, even she could see that was a complete distraction from what was really going on. So, you know, as if that's of any, you know, seriously, of all things going on in the world, who cares about Christmas party? And I know you could say it shows a complete lack of integrity and line, but anyone who thinks any of the current politicians have got any integrity and don't lie, you know, you shouldn't really need to see something about Christmas party to realize that.
I know. Well, I heard, and I don't know because I'm not in New York. We'll have to ask some of our friends who are in New York right now. But I heard that we'll say this case that's happening, that people were walking by and there's like one guard outside. And they're like, wait a minute, why is there only one guard outside of this courthouse for this big of a trial?
Yeah.
What the hell's happening? What's going on?
Yeah.
Is this really happening? Or is this all just a show too? Like, has this already been taken care of? Like, how is this going to play itself out? Because you're right, because what's happening in the United States right now affects the world.
Yeah, completely. And, you know, if they can do the Carl Rittenhouse one and be on live TV, how can it possibly? I mean, you know, this is the other thing we're realizing, is we have no idea what's going on, because this, as you say, there's a very good chance that trial isn't actually happening at the moment. I mean, what? Because people have told us, but none of the press seem to be allowed in.
No.
So,
and there's literally, y'all, there's one security guard. One in New York City.
Please, anyone in New York, please go and have a look and tell us in the comments below, or email us or message us, because I'm dying to find out. I know I was speaking to Mel Kay early on in the week, and she was saying that they weren't letting anyone in. They weren't letting a lot of the press in. They weren't letting anyone else in. So
it isn't that, I mean, like, okay, the press is supposed to be there to inform us, like the people. Exactly. They're supposed to be on our side. They're supposed to be on our side.
Yeah.
And this thing affects everyone. This was about leaders from everywhere.
Exactly.
And the press, why aren't they? I mean, we have another case happening here in America right now. It's the Josh Duggar case, which I'm.
Oh yeah, I've heard you speak about that. Yeah.
And it's every day there's information coming up. I mean, I'm following it because I know who he is and I know the crimes he's been accused of. It's the exact same stuff as the other. Anyway, you guys know what we're talking about. So I've been following it to see, because he was also connected to some like political parties in DC. So I'm kind of curious to see.
Yes.
It's interesting that his case and that case are happening at the same time. But that case, you have reporters there. There's it's in Arkansas. There's camera. I mean, it's literally, it's not like the Kyle situation. Like, this literally looks like this is really happening. And he's really about to go down for this stuff. And if he does, he'll probably be singing like a canary about his connections. Exactly. And like, how come this kid, I mean, he's like, what, 32, this reality star, like D-level celebrity who's only really famous in the United States, he's getting coverage.
Yeah.
But she's not.
But she's not. And this is what, throughout this whole journey, it's more about us paying attention to what we're not seeing, because everything we're seeing, we now know, is a complete distraction. And I want to get a t-shirt and just walk around in it. In fact, I'm doing a range t-shirt that, you know, look out for that orange unicorn, and make sure you can test for it, because it's just so ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely frightening. I mean, if one more person tells me about, oh, well, this variant's on the rise, it's like, how the bloody hell, you know? You can then say to them, you do know that tests are not accurate. Well, I know that, but the new variant, it's like, how can you put those two things in a sentence together? What
Exactly.
not connecting in your brain? I reckon they have put a lot of fluoride back in the water. It's the only excuse I can come up with.
You know what I was thinking today? I was thinking about when I was in the shower and I was having to remind myself to wash my hair because I was getting so frustrated about this whole thing. But it was like, this is so fucking, like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. How are people not seeing this? And I kept thinking about they say love is blind, and like people who are in like ABUS, IVE relationships, how they just refuse to see it. I'm like, maybe that's what's happening. Maybe people are just in an ABUSE relationship and they're just defending because that's what the governments are doing to us right now. Like they're following that playbook of what ABUSE looks like. Sorry guys, I'm trying to watch the but where the gaslighting, the control, the making you feel like somebody posted, actually someone I follow from UK posted like, your human rights are not rewards.
Yeah, exactly.
Your right to be able to move around this globe and see people, that's not a reward. That's your birthright.
Nor should animal rights be a reward either.
Exactly.
Nor should they be. Nor should you be lucky if you're kept in these conditions.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, I was talking about this in one of the support groups yesterday because people were asking off camera, like, do you think that the new medical system will involve animals too? And I said, hell yeah. I was like, what was the first thing Mr. T did when he became our leader? It was the children or young people, the laws about the young people that he changed, making it a crime. You know what I'm saying? And animals. Yes, that. If you do stuff to young children, it's with him. Yeah. Animals too. He also made a federal law in the United States. It is a felony to hurt an animal.
Yeah.
He's the first president to do that.
So he took, because we're just ugly animals, as I always say. Every animal has its pros and cons. I mean, anyone who wants to see about, real psychic communication and amazing intelligence, go and look at some of the cetaceans, dolphins and whales and things like that. Amazing. So intelligence is relevant. We always think we've got special skills as humans, which we absolutely have, but every species has their own set of strengths. We've got Canadian geese here that have flown all the way from Canada. I mean, can you imagine? I'm going to
catch a ride with them.
Garden, and I still can't even levitate, even though I'm practicing. And yet a geese in my neighbour's pond can fly, not getting on an airplane, with their own wings from Canada to England. How amazing. So don't tell me that humans are the only ones with special powers. Imagine if we could do that. We wouldn't care about the boundaries, would we? We'd just...
No, that's what I say. I just hitch a ride with the geese and I can go come with you. I mean, we get that. We have birds that fly south here from, because our winters are mild. So we get that. They all come down from the south too. And, it's funny. I know with the street dogs, like with my dog, I know that if he was left on the streets and wasn't like hit by a car or didn't have any type of parasite issue, he could live to be 20, 25 years old.
Exactly. This is what I was saying to our clients. And, my dog, Star, she was the runt of the litter and she was born with no tail. She's the only animal I've ever had that we know her birthday, because my mum, and she wasn't going to make it because the mum rejected her. And so my mum sort of hand reared her, and she was always tiny and things like this, and because she was born with no tail, her legs were too upright, so she had to have her legs off wedge on. She's really happy and fine, but the fact that she's like, the oldest one of her litter, and touch wood, still going strong despite having had so many interventions and obstacles. But again, 16 should not be old for a Labrador.
No.
And like we talk about for humans, a lot of people, they say, oh, now I'm 60, now I'm 70, and I'm thinking, but it doesn't have to be like that, because you can see other people of that age who are so amazingly vibrant.
Well, they say our life is going to be expanded. At first I heard 200 years, then one of the Cassiopeia boards, it said 400 years. So your age now, add 400 to it. That means that we're still preteens. Yeah, we're still like middle schoolers, if that's how long we're going to be living. So
like it feels like, I do feel mentally I'm regressing, actually.
Yeah, I actually feel so physically, and I actually asked Janine this question a long time ago, and I might have talked about it with you, but before all the lockdown happened, I was really struggling with arthritis, like big time. Like I was, for my age, I was like crippled. And I know I've beaten my body up. Like I know that it's mostly me, just the crazy things I've done to my body throughout the years for my job. But then once lockdown started, I started incorporating other physical activity, and all of a sudden it went away. And I feel at 38, I'll be 39 in February, I feel better than I did at 28.
Yeah.
And I remember asking Janine a long time ago, I don't even know if she remembers, because in the book of Revelation, it talks about you will inherit your light body, like your DNA will start to change. And I said, is that what's happening? And she basically just, this is me that's throwing down the cards, mimicking Janine, throwing down the cards. Basically, she got that, when you stand in the light, when you stand in truth, your whole DNA will start to like change. Because of that.
It's also about balance as well, because there is such a thing as too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
So all of these practices are absolutely amazing and have loads and loads of benefits, but also perhaps you're at a stage of your life now where you're bringing more balance into it in terms.
Yeah. And I think there was some psychology behind it as well. I'd had some experiences with some teachers that weren't good. And I think that I was carrying that, but then I could release it once the lockdown happened and I couldn't physically go teach. Like it was like a release that happened. So you don't know. I mean, it still amazes me. And this is what I do for a living. I talk about the mind and how it affects the body, but it still amazes me how much our thoughts and our perception of action, because when action happens, action is neither good nor bad. It's just action. It's how we perceive the action. So what I might see as bad, Catherine might see as good, but how I've perceived that action has now drastically changed my mind field, which is my body. And so by releasing that, I think that there's a lot to be said for that healing was able to actually happen. There was actually some mental healing, which caused physical healing as well. It's pretty wild. And in saying that, talking about magical abilities, like the fact that our minds can do that, even on a subconscious level, shows you how powerful we actually are as human beings.
Absolutely incredible, isn't it? And I love it. There's so much still for us to explore and learn. My life is completely different balance wise to where it was 2 years ago, where I had another company which I sold and I was rushing off here, there and everywhere. And now it's just feels so much more in balance than it was then. And I look back now and I was thinking, what was I thinking? But at the time it seemed completely normal. So you're meant to go through these stages, everyone. We're all meant to learn from our experiences, and sometimes you've got to do it. And I think where we're looking in the news and people are like, that person's been pictured next to that person and that person's been pictured, sometimes you have to experience it. And sometimes you go into a job, you go into an industry, and only because you're in there do you see the inside information. I mean, again, Charlie was speaking to a Google whistleblower very early this morning, and that person would have gone in there thinking that Google was one of the most amazing companies to work for and doing this, but had they not been on the inside, they would never have known all this information. Now, just because he chose to work for Google doesn't make that person a bad person at all. Quite the opposite. And I think this is what we've got to do, is sometimes we all know the most important lessons you're going to learn are from dodgy situations, dodgy relationships, choices that you might look as a mistake, that actually in hindsight you look back and say, well, that wasn't a mistake, because I learned so much from that made me course correct much more than I would have done from just puddling along with everything being okay. Yeah,
no, I agree with you. It's so funny. Right when I came out as a Mr. T supporter, like got vocal about it, I had somebody in the yoga community send me a picture of Mr. T with the man who owned the island, we'll just say it that way. And I sent back to him, I was like, listen, they were in the same social circles, and we know he kicked him out of his resort. Like, we know that there were issues. And I found a picture of me standing beside another teacher who has gotten into a lot of trouble for some really serious stuff. And I was like, I have a picture with this guy and I can't stand him. But we were in the same shala, we were in the same social circles. So of course there's pictures of us together, because it's a small world. That 1% of people, that's a small world. You're going to see pictures of them, but it doesn't mean, and I think going back to like the whole trial, like us learning that we can't always trust what we see in a lot of ways. We have to critically think about this. We have to really understand that things can be manipulated. So yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I feel so much better now
I know.
speaking to you. I really do. And this is what another message for people, just talk it out. I've heard a lot of people speaking it, but at the start of the conversation, I was not having a particularly good day.
Me either.
With all sorts of things that I was letting affect me. And now I've had a good old chin wag with my bestie. I feel like a completely different person and ready to go and do my poo picking. Anyone who's got horses knows how much time you spend picking up poo, but it's worth it. Good old manure.
Nope.
Yeah.
I have to pick up my dog's poo and he makes man poos, so it's
we love talking about poo.
I'm gonna catch one of those birds that flies to England. I'm just gonna ride them and go.
Yeah, just ride on the back. Well, my neighbours have got the most beautiful pond in their garden. I mean, it's just stunning. I walk past it every day because it's just amazing. And every time when the Canadian geese come, they think I'm hysterical because I'm so excited to see them there. And I'm like, you've made it. It's just
tell me what life is like on the other country.
Yeah, tell me right now. Really saying, because you just think, and I'm thinking, I've done my 2-hour walk with my dogs and I'm a bit puffed out, and I'm thinking, but you've flown from Canada. This is ridiculous. How can I say I'm tired? So this is what I think, every creature, whether it's plant, animal, mineral, we're all capable of so much more than we think. And sometimes we need that good kick up the backside, like what I have this week, to make me realize it. So yeah.
Well, we got a great roundtable tomorrow. I'm so excited about
exciting chats tomorrow as well coming up.
No, we've got Catherine and I got 2 with tomorrow, and another. And I got to send you information about the subject.
Oh yes, the other one. I'm so excited. That's my lovely treat for tonight. Listen, thank you so much. Honestly, I feel so much better. Big hugs across the pond.
Yes.
I'll go and have a word with those Canadian geese and see if we can both hitch a ride and catch up and all congregate in Canada, perhaps. Yeah.
Hey. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
have a brilliant rest of the day, and I'll speak tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Bye, guys.